Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley, and today we've got another college football prediction video. So let's just jump straight into it. The Missouri scoreboard. You see Mizzou and Buffalo at the top there. Now, I was in San Diego this weekend, so I didn't really get to watch much football. I watched a little bit. You see me with the NIU shirt on right now. Brutus, be quiet, please. It was a great game for NIU. They end up upsetting number 5 Notre Dame on the road. Notre Dame drops big, but you guys aren't here for that. Let's talk about Mizzou. They end up winning big. Theo had like 13 receptions for 150 yards. Absolutely crazy game. Mizzou gets it done. I had them by 32. They win by 38. Ball State, I want to say I had them by 8 points, and they won by 8 points against Missouri State. So big game for them. And then SEMO, they end up winning in overtime against UT Martin. I had them winning by just a little bit more than that. They end up getting it done, though, at home. Central Arkansas takes care of Lindenwood 34-13. This one wasn't close. I predicted them to not be close in this game as a 21-point margin, I want to say, if I'm doing the math correctly. I think I took Central Arkansas by 19. For smaller classes, Northwest ends up losing again. They're 0-2 to start the season. They lose on the road to Nebraska Kearney 21-14. We'll see what comes for them. And Fort Hays State takes care of Missouri Western. I also took Missouri Western in this one. I was just kind of, holding hope for that one. Hopefully they'd win. They didn't get it done. With the SEC scoreboard now, if you look in the top right, you see Oklahoma and Houston 16-12. Now, I had Oklahoma by 38 in this one. They end up winning by 4, so pretty shocking game. If we go right below that, Arizona State takes care of Mississippi State by 7 points. Kentucky loses at home, I should say, to South Carolina 31-6. Tennessee gets it done 51-10 over NC State. NC State was ranked, so this one was a pretty shocking one. I don't say they're only like 21 or something like that if I'm remembering correctly, but I ended up having Tennessee, if it'll load. It's just not going to load now. My computer's bugging. I want to say I had Tennessee by like 30s. No, 24. I had Tennessee by 24. They ended up winning by 41 points. So pretty big difference there. Alabama and South Florida. This is an interesting one. 42-16 Bama. So that sounds like a not close game. But it was very close until the second half. I want to say later in the third quarter, that's when Bama started to pull away. They were only up by 1 on South Florida, and it was like, hold on a second. Is there going to be an upset today? Bama ends up flying past in the fourth quarter, so you don't have to worry about that at all. Texas versus Michigan. This was the college game day stuff. Not a close game. Going in, I predicted it to be close. I took Texas by 6 just because it was supposed to be a good game, but now we're kind of showing that Michigan's not the greatest team this year. They end up losing 31-12. Big loss, but a big win for Texas, and they're showing that they're an SEC school. They're not having some new conference hangover, and obviously Michigan's not in the SEC, but this was the defending national champions, right? So big game for Texas. If we go to the top 25 scoreboard, let's just start with Ohio State and Western Michigan. Not a close game, 56-0. That one's kind of obvious. Going down to the bottom right, I had Utah by 27. They didn't even score 27. Cam Rising gets injured, so they end up winning this one 23-12. If we go back up to the top, Oklahoma State versus Arkansas. This is an interesting one. I predicted Oklahoma State to win pretty big. They end up winning in overtime, so very interesting game in Oklahoma. Illinois versus Kansas in the top left of your screen right now. This was a crazy game. I took Kansas. I had them winning by 8 points in this one, and they did not win, luckily, because, I'm not a big Kansas fan. I reluctantly took them to win this game. They ended up losing by 6 on the road. Jalen Daniels throws 3 interceptions. I enjoy seeing Kansas lose, so I wasn't too sad about that result. Oregon versus Boise State. This should have been my top 25 game of the week. For some reason, I chose Iowa and Iowa State, which we'll talk about here in a moment. I watched most of this game. We had it on a monitor in the press box, and It was really fun to watch. It was back and forth, like every single drive was a scoring drive. Oregon, I mean to say, ends up winning 34-37. I had them winning by 4. They end up winning by 3. Iowa versus Iowa State. I don't know. With Iowa's offense this year, it's bad again. It really is. But, they're showing moments. And the defense, I don't think, is as good this year as it was last year, which is what really kept them winning games last year. Rocco Becht ends up leading a game-winning drive. Game-winning field goal ends up being 20-19. Iowa State ends up winning. I had them winning by 3. They end up winning by 1. So let's go ahead and get to this week's predictions, fresh off of a 13-5 record last week. Missouri scoreboard. You see in the top left right now, this is the Missouri game of the week. Mizzou versus Boston College. This is a big one. Boston College ranked 24, Mizzou ranked 6. Game day should be here in Columbia this week, but they chose to go elsewhere. It is what it is, but big game. I am going to take Mizzou by 10 in this one. Missouri State versus Lindenwood. Two in-state teams. We see 2 games on the scoreboard of in-state teams playing against each other. I'm going to take Missouri State by 16 in this one. I feel like that one's pretty obvious. Lindenwood, not a great team. Indianapolis versus Truman State. This is the runner-up for Missouri game of the week. Big game. Truman State's going to Indianapolis, of course. This one's going to be fireworks. Truman ended up losing their first game. They're a great team this year, though. But I am going to take Indianapolis by 7 in this one. Central Oklahoma. They are hosting Central Missouri. I feel like Central Missouri is just way above almost every other team. I think it's kind of obvious we got to take UCM by 18 in this one. Missouri Western is hosting Missouri Southern State. Missouri Southern State has not had a good start to the year. They're looking pretty awful this year, if we're going to be honest. So let's go Missouri Western by 22 in this one. And Northwest versus Fort Hays State. Fort Hays State ends up winning 30-16 against Missouri Western last week. And Northwest is kind of on a slide. They're 0-2. And, I took Northwest to win both of those last 2 games. And I'm going to do it again. I'm just, I'm going to stick with them. I want to see them get a win. I will take Northwest by 6 points in this one. I think it's going to be a close game. And as I've said in videos, games that I think I'm kind of teeter-tottered on who's going to win, I take single digits. And then teams that I'm pretty confident in, I end up going double digits. So I will take 6 Northwest here. SEC scoreboard now. Top left, Oklahoma and Tulane. Oklahoma's kept that top left spot this whole entire year so far, 3 weeks in. I'm going to take Oklahoma by 28. Expect them to bounce back. Tulane almost upset Kansas State. I'm not saying that Tulane isn't as good as they played last Saturday. I just think that Oklahoma is going to be pretty fired up for this one. South Carolina versus LSU. This is where College Game Day is this week. I think that the South Carolina crowd will be fired up, but it won't be enough to beat LSU. I think LSU comes in and wins by 8 points. Wake Forest hosting Ole Miss. This is an interesting one. Ole Miss looks like a national championship contender, if we're going to be honest, and I just don't think that Wake Forest is anywhere near that. So I'm going to take Ole Miss by 24. If we go right below that, Kentucky is hosting Georgia. Kentucky off of a terrible home loss to South Carolina of all teams. Give me Georgia by 36 in this one. I think that they can win pretty big. They've only let up 2 field goals, no touchdowns so far this year, and expect kind of the same work against Kentucky. Texas versus UTSA. UTSA lost real terrible last week, and Texas won real big. So expect kind of the same going this week. I'm going to take the Longhorns by 52. In the SEC game of the week, Wisconsin hosting Bama. This is a big one. This is a test for both teams. They both got kind of tested a little bit by smaller schools last week. Expect a pretty close game. I will take Bama by 2 touchdowns, though. 14-point win for Bama. The top 25 scoreboard, you see in the top left, Nebraska versus Northern Iowa. I just really don't think that this game's going to be close. Give me Nebraska by 28. Oklahoma State's going on the road to Tulsa. That's an interesting one. I don't really know why they're doing that, but I will take the Cowboys by 30 points in this one. Michigan versus Arkansas State. Expect the Wolverines to bounce back big in this one. I will take Michigan by 5 touchdowns. A 35-point win for Michigan. Utah State is hosting Utah. Utah State's just kind of little brother to Utah, if we're going to be honest. Hopefully Cam Rising is out there. I know I said that he got hurt. I haven't really looked at his status. I don't know if he's going to be out there or not. But either way, even if – oh, shoot, I can't remember what Utah's backup is. But even if Cam Rising isn't out there, I do have Utah by 21 in this one. Kansas State versus Arizona. You guys are probably surprised this isn't game of the week. This is a Friday night game. I think that Kansas State, they have home field advantage here, and it's really weird to say this is a Big 12 game. That just doesn't feel right. It really doesn't feel right having Kansas State and Arizona as a conference game. But anyways, that's besides the point. Give me the Wildcats by 13 at home in this one. I know they got tested by Tulane, but I just think that they're a better team than Arizona. But this is, even though I say I teeter-totter with the single-digit wins, but, this is one that I'm kind of teeter-tottering with. I feel like Arizona has a pretty good chance in this one. In our top 25 game of the week, it has to be number 9 Oregon being hosted by Oregon State, the Beavers. This is a big one. With Oregon State's offense, I think that Oregon could do pretty well on the defensive side of the ball. But Oregon State's defense is amazing this year. They really are. They're so good this year. I just think that the way Oregon's offense is with these penalties and the O-line and stuff, they're going to struggle. I think this is going to be a close game. This one's going to be a shocker. Give me the Beavers by 1 point. Fans rush the field, and we'll see a really massive game for Oregon State. And this is going to be one that they mark every single year from now on. It's really weird having this not be in the last game of the week or in the last game of the year now. It's in week 3 every year. So that's going to be something to get used to. But, the Civil War has been led by Oregon. But just the way Oregon is this year, I'm just not sure about it. So I am going to take the Beavers by 1. But I know this is a pretty quick video, but that's all we've got for today. 5 o'clock obviously is when this is going up as usual. NFL tomorrow, I did pretty well. My fantasy team did not though, so I will mention that a little bit. But that's all we've got for today. This has been Missouri Sports Talk. We'll see you next time.